My name's Sasha Pete, and I'm joined by a fantastic individual. This man tore up the NSL and had some games overseas himself. None other than the great David Clarkson. Thanks, Dave, for joining today.
Good on you, Sasha. Nice to be here, and congratulations on what you're doing. I've really enjoyed, we just touched on it before we came on in regards to the people that are involved with football. And there's some wonderful stories and some wonderful people that have been lost to the game for whatever reason. Some may not be interested anymore to be involved. But the fact of the matter is, if they're not or if they are, they've still got some wonderful stories. So they've been really good to listen to. Good on you.
Yeah, cheers, mate. So tell us, David, how did you fall in love with our great game?
I know that's your first question to all of your guests, and probably we've all got a very similar answer. It's either mainly through our parents and normally through our father. And I was no different. My parents emigrated as young parents with my sister and I from the north of England, from Preston. I was born in the UK. And they left in the snow, got the train to London, had to fly for 3 days in a small plane because my uncle and his wife had emigrated to Tasmania, to Hobart. They sent a wire back to my parents and said, "You've got to come and join us. It's beautiful here." So, yeah, they packed a suitcase and off we went. So we arrived Boxing Day 1969 from -5 degrees to 35 degrees. And on Boxing Day, my parents decided they'll take my sister and I and the family to the beach. Well, my skin had never seen sun, obviously. So there I was crawling around the beach, 35 degrees in Hobart. That night I ended up with second-degree burns. In hospital. You know what, Sasha? My mum and dad tell me, and I still have scars on my shoulders, that I had blisters on my eyelids.
Oh.
I was that badly. I was, turning over when I was done. So from then, my dad got involved with the local football club, Hobart Juventus. At the time, he was secretary of the club. I spent many a long night while he was drinking his grappa, under the table asleep. And I just was surrounded in the culture of football. I would go and watch. And back in those days in Tassie, there were some really top players that had come. Jack Charlton's son, John, was playing. Georgie Best came for a stint. And there was incredible players. So I remember going to Darcy Street in South Hobart's home ground, and being on my dad's shoulders, 10 back, watching the game. And, I just fell in love with it, And when I wasn't watching, I was kicking around in the garden. Back then you were free to roam, and we had a big garden in Hobart. And my dad became a referee, so I was just always had a ball at my feet. I was the biggest Liverpool fan. I remember my dad went back to my grandmother's funeral, in the UK, and he bought me back a pair of Kevin Keegan Patrick soccer boots with the.
I remember those.
You remember?
I remember those.
I remember I would read the Shoot magazine, and Kevin Keegan would have these boots, and I said, "Dad, I know you're going back for a sad event, but if you can, please, if you could find these boots for me." And he got me 2 pairs, and I remember sleeping with them. I could smell the leather.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, the first time I went to wear them at a game in Hobart, the referee said, "You can't wear those boots. They've got aluminium studs." So I couldn't wear them. So, Sasha, like many of your guests, I was just in and around football. I would listen. Back then we would only get the FA Cup to watch. And I remember on a Sunday night listening to the radio with my dad when they BBC went through all the scores. And in the Shoot magazine, they used to have a pull-out thing where it had all the leagues, and you could change where each team was. It was like a cardboard thing.
Yes.
So I would write all the scores down from the English, well, it was the first division at the time, right down to the Scottish third division, East Fife against Falkirk, teams I never even knew existed. But I was there, and I just used to love that. And we'd spend time together doing that. And then he painted my bedroom with Liverpool colours, and it's in our DNA.
So, when I think of your greatest attributes as a senior player, David, I think of your engine, right? So, describe to me, as a junior growing up, right? were you always sort of that really nippy player? Where did you gravitate on the pitch? Where did you play?
Yeah, interesting question. I was always like a winger, 7 or 11, and I was always smaller than everybody else. In fact, when I grew up in Tassie, there was no like small-sided games or any of that, and there was no under 6, 7s, 8s. So I played as a 6-year-old with the under 10s. So I think what the coach did, he put me not in the middle out where I think I was quite quick. So I was always more an attacking player scoring lots of goals. And then as I got older, it then became, and obviously the way teams are structured changed. And then I became more of still an attacking player, but more in the middle of the park. And then probably AIS, when I went to the AIS in 86 with Jimmy Shelton and Ronnie Smith, they probably turned me more into that defensive type midfielder or box-to-box type midfielder. And, and I always had the engines to do that. And then, I tell a funny story. Ange says this is not true, but I obviously played in a really good South Melbourne team over the years, and a lot of times I was first on the team sheet because Ange could rely on me, and people would say, yeah, but what were his instructions to you? What did he tell you to do? And I said, honestly, he would say, Clarky, get the ball and give it to the good players. What a prick. No, but when you look up, Sasha, you've got to know your role in the team. And Stevie Panopoulos and I, and then you got Trimmers, you got Bootsy, you got Goran Ozanovsky, Michael Sid, you got plenty of options. So, that was my role. So I didn't get forward much. In fact, sorry, I know you got another one, but I think I played 232 games in the National League. I think he scored like 16 goals. Certainly wasn't a goal scorer.
Yeah. So, but so it's interesting that you think, because I always remember so maybe that's the instruction and but watching from the sidelines, because early, let's say, late 80s all the way to sort of the mid, all the way to the late 90s, I supported South Melbourne. So I'd be in the terraces watching you. And I'm sure you didn't have the GPSs on you at the time.
No, we didn't.
I'm sure I'd put you in the top echelon of the team of covering distance.
Yeah, I think so. And certainly with every team I've played with, George Cross, some great young players, Damien Murray, Craig Foster, Troy Cranny, that was, and there's some good athletes, Lawrence Kidner in there, but I was always, and back then you did a lot of time trials and it wasn't so football specific. I was always up the front. In fact, if I go back to my AIS days where there was sports science, and they'd put us on the treadmill and you do a VO2 max, mine was always incredibly high. But what the sports science people told me is that I had, and you know this yourself, being a runner now, people have certain levels where they can deal with the lactic acid in their body and how it breaks down. Well, I had the ability my lactic acid levels could be off the scale, but I had some. You burn it. Yeah, I was managed to push that, through my body and not let it affect where I was getting to. So, I was always lucky. And as we were talking before, I really enjoyed that part of my game, and when I finish playing, it's still in me where I need to get out and run. And it's just, I always say the road is my office, is where I do my best thinking, clears your head. And it was very much like that as a player. I didn't need the limelight. I wanted to be the guy in the team that you almost didn't notice, but you thought, well, if he's not in the team, there's stuff's not happening, and that's how it was in South. And as I say, with Ange, I knew that he respected that in my game, so that was nice.
When did you? So you're so becoming an adult at the Institute of Sport. You spent a year there. Is it a year?
I had 2 years, 86 and 87. And in 87, Sasha, the first year we played in the National Youth League, the Northern Division, against Olympic and Marconi and all of those teams. And I was just a young boy from Tassie. I didn't know what to, I was really a deer in the headlights with some older guys. And then the second year, I thought, you know what, if I'm going to make a career out of this, I need to apply myself more, because it was like I'd been released from Tasmania with no life skills. And these boys, I was going to the pub, and it just became, wow, you don't have to answer to your parents. And I lost my way a little bit. And I'll tell you a story, and you can verify this, and so can Ron Smith. Because I didn't apply myself enough, what happened was at the end of that 86 season, I wasn't playing that much. It was a really solid team. Ron was going to get rid of me. He wasn't going to offer me another scholarship. And Ron was going to be joined by Gary Cole, who we know well, to be his assistant coach. And I was devastated. I thought, I'm going to go back to Tas here? That's the end. I was 17 years old. I thought, it's the end. It hasn't even started. But what happened was Gareth Naven, his parents, he's from Perth and had a great career at Perth Glory. His parents didn't want him to come back to Canberra. And so he signed for Perth Glory, and it was like right on the eve of the squad being finalised. Ron gave me a reprieve. He goes, Clarky, I'm gonna bring you back in, but you know what happened that year, Sasha? I went AIS Athlete of the Year. I captained the team. We played in the Victorian Premier League. We won the We won the competition by 10 points.
I remember that.
And it was just a turning in my career. And, for any young people that perhaps listening, that if you don't apply yourself, and I'm talking physically, mentally, emotionally, and I know there has to be a balance. I get all of that. You need your education. It's very important. But that was a real kick in the guts for me, and it taught me a lot about, being resilient and understanding when you get an opportunity, and whatever that might be, if you don't take it, it'll at some point, it's going to come back and bite you on the ass for sure.
Oh, fantastic words of wisdom. So talk to me about 86, 87. Who are some of the other lads in that AIS squad?
The first year was, it was more the second year that you would know, because more of the second year went on. And I've got a photo of them. So I'm just going through the line now. Jason Polak.
Yep.
Stevie Horvat, now a director at Western United. Alistair Edwards. David Healy, who played for South Melbourne. I'm just trying to think who else.
Some great names.
Peter Gunning, who had a good career as a goalkeeper. Some younger ones. Yeah, so it was a solid squad. Yeah.
Great. And so from there, how did you make your transition to senior football? So you finish up at the AIS, and so what next?
Yeah, then what happened was I got in some training camps with the Australian youth team, but I know you had, Blurkey was in as well, Jason. Okay. And what happened was Les Scheinflug, he was a coach of the Australian youth team, but at the time he was also coaching Blacktown, I think it was. And you look back now, it's such a conflict of interest. What he did was he signed a number of players from the AIS to Blacktown City, gave them big money, and all of those players then got to play in the Australian youth team, and I didn't go to Blacktown. So I went to a couple of camps, never really got an opportunity. And Ron Smith will tell you this. He still does not know to this day, and I didn't. So, I mean, I would have loved to play. I never represented Australia. Ron says he doesn't know how I didn't. But then what happened was my scholarship ended, and I went to with Ernie at Sunshine George Cross, and he signed a lot of those young boys. As I said, Craig Foster. Craig was another one. His brother Paul. Ozzy Lateef was there at the time.
Yes.
Sean Parks.
What a great player. How good was Ozzy?
But Ozzy, unfortunately, I didn't get to really play with Ozzy because we're talking about Chaplain Reserve before. I'll never forget it. We were doing a shooting drill, cross shooting drill, and I took the ball down the right, and I played the ball into the near post, and Ozzy came in to just tuck it in with his inside of his foot, but just in front of the near post, there was like a little divot in the ground, and he's put his foot in it, snapped his knee, and that was he never. That was almost the end of Aussie.
Yeah.
So then, I mean, we had a good side, but I was so young, and we were playing against top, the Marconis and the Olympics of the world.
That's the one thing about George Cross. I mean, so George Cross in those years, they blooded local boys. So,
well, if you look, Frankie Talia, goalkeeper, went on to have a good career. Damien Murray, incredible. The Cranny brothers, Lawrence Kidner, unbelievable career. So there was some Craig Foster, Paul Foster, there's some, and we were all so green behind the ears, even though the majority of us been to the AIS. We didn't have hardened.
Yeah.
And back then, Sasha, like that was a man's competition. If you don't know how to handle yourself, you just sink or swim. So we win some games, but we lost a lot too. And then what happened was I had the opportunity through someone I know, through an agent, to go to Brighton. I went to Newcastle United first on trial.
Okay.
And
they were in the first division then. Right?
Yeah, first division. They had Paul Gascoigne, Mirandina, like a good squad.
How many weeks were you there?
I was there for nearly 6 months.
What? And they couldn't work out? I mean, like...
No, what happened was they were changing manager. The club was struggling financially. I was playing, but they didn't actually sign me. I played in midfield at St James's Park with Paul Gascoigne next to me as coming back from injury in the reserves.
I had no idea.
So we put the heat on my manager. I said, look, this is too long now. What are we doing? But in the meantime, a scout from Brighton and Hove Albion had seen me playing for the reserves.
Yeah.
So I ended up going to Brighton. I was there for a week, spent a week training with them, and they signed me. They gave me a 2-year deal.
So that was in the... So
91 that was.
Newcastle's in the first division. Brighton's, I think, in the second division that year. And so, but back then, you really hard. So you would have got in because of your English...
Correct, our English passport.
Passport, okay. So you haven't got the problems there of foreigner status, etc. So that's one advantage. No. But the 6 months, I mean, anyone who's coached, within 2 or 3 sessions of somebody, if they fit in your plans or not. I mean,
it was really bizarre. And I was, look, it's not a great story, but I knew back then my agent was doing deals, and then I got ripped off by him. But look, in saying that, I got to play, English football. And the year I joined Brighton and Hove Albion, they got to Wembley to go into the first division.
Oh, really?
They got to the playoffs. So that when I joined, not that I made the squad, but I was at Wembley. I've still got the tracksuit, Wembley 91. But they didn't make the final. So then we played back in the first division, our second division. Got relegated that year to the third division. But I played 20 odd games and had a good FA Cup run, and I really enjoyed my time. Look, hindsight's such a beautiful thing. I definitely should have gone back. Got married very young, had children.
Yeah.
My wife at the time did not want to go back. And I remember the manager, Barry Lloyd, called me. He goes, David, we want you back. We can't offer you a lot of money, but this is a great opportunity for you. You've done all the hard work. You're a first-team player. And I said, Gaffer, I'm not coming back. He goes, listen, there will be the biggest regret in your life. And you know what? Those words just, not they ring in my ear every day, but it's so true, because that door never opened again, Sasha. And I went on to have a decent career, but that was a big, big mistake. I should have gone back. Wolves were interested, Middlesbrough, and because of the situation I was in personally, then you have to start making decisions about your family. And I ended up then signing for Heidelberg with Gary Cole, and that's no disrespect, but it's a fair way from Brighton and Hove Albion to the Burgers.
Yes, yeah. But I mean, so that's cool. You think back. If in your career, so in the same team, so Paul Gascoigne would have to be the best player that you've laced up and passed the ball to. I mean, how good was he? Crazy as pie.
Yeah, he was crazy. But you know what? He's at that time, just a really genuine, loving guy, just surrounded himself with the wrong people.
Yeah.
But what a talented footballer. I mean, that was incredible. I remember just doing an interview one day. He's in the background and carrying on, but just just the life of the change room and the club. And I've been fortunate to play against and with a lot of great players. But when you're that young and you're still so green, to be able it's one of those moments you look and go, wow, I'm playing, And even then he was great, but we didn't know how great he was going to be because he was still only quite young himself. He was always he was always talented.
Did you how much above, just when he got the ball, did he feel like he had that extra half second? Could you just tell was that 30 or 40 or 50% better than just everybody else on the park?
Well, I think definitely. And not just him, but, you can look at what's the difference between me as a successful South Melbourne player or playing against Manchester United at the World Club Championships in 2000 against David Beckham. What is the difference between him and I?
Yeah.
With similar stature, blonde hair, we move around the pitch. Why is he so good?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why, and I tell this to a lot of young kids, because players like him, they're able to perform skills under the most intense pressure. And they do that without thinking.
Mm.
So, for example, you've had a not bad career, but I'm thinking a player who's not such a great player, the ball's switch from one side of the park to the other, the ball's in the air, it's coming at them, they're thinking, fuck, how am I going to control this? That's what they're thinking.
Mm.
I'm thinking, I know I'm going to control this, that's fine. David Beckham's thinking,
I'm going to volley it first time. Yeah.
I know it's coming. I'm already know where it's going.
Okay, yeah.
Right? But which I might be able to do as well, but with a player 10 metres from me. He's able to do that with someone breathing down. That's the difference between, and you've got to remember these players are in those environments week in, week out. So it's something in training, in games, hostile environments. They're able to do it. It's second nature to them. And it was like at, what we call the golden generation of 2006. If you look at those players across the board, they were in all of those hostile environments. So to play in a World Cup as massive as it is, they'd almost been there before in many ways. Just they had a different shirt. You know what I mean? Yeah, if that explains it, I hope it does.
A season or so at Heidelberg, and then did you end up going off to Asia?
Yeah,
after that?
I did. I went, probably not the best career move, although there were some good moments. What happened was, and he's still a good friend of mine to this day, Craig Foster went, I think he was at Adelaide City, and he went to Hong Kong. And Hong Kong at that time, the league was really exciting. And so he said, Clark, you've got to come to just going back to George Cross as well. I know we're talking about money before at George Cross. I think at that time, I might have been one of the biggest transfers from Australia to England. They received £5,000 up front. So we're talking late 80s. And then if I played a certain amount of games, which I did, they got another £20,000.
Okay.
Nobody seems to know where that money went. But anyway, that's apparently that happened. So then I went, yes. So Craig said, come to Hong Kong. And I know that Happy Valley, who are one of the bigger clubs at the time, they are looking for a midfielder. So I went, they were really struggling at the time, and I went with Chris Trajanowski. Have you had Tradger on, Sasha?
No, I haven't. No,
you got to get Tradgers. What an absolute superstar of a person. What a gentleman. So Traj and I went, and we played the last 6 games, got them out of relegation trouble, and we ended up staying. We signed for the biggest club in Hong Kong, South China, and we had an incredible time there. I ended up playing for the Hong Kong national team because they could have 3 foreigners, played in major tournaments at Denmark, Colombia, played against the incredible team of AC Milan at Hong Kong Stadium when they were touring.
Wow.
You're a bit young, but I don't know if you remember, Milan toured, they toured Asia and then came and played the Socceroos.
Yeah, in 2-game playoff.
Yeah, and they played one at Carlton's, whatever.
Where they they switched off the lights and went
Switched
home
off
and
the
cut it by
lights.
10 minutes. Yeah, so I was there. I was there at that
Know the
game.
story. So yeah, and that team that I played against, that was the.
Did you play in the same tour where
that tour. So that was obviously Maldini, Donadoni, Baresi, Gullit, Van Basten.
Did you get a shirt? Did you get a shirt?
I got it here in my cupboard. And he was, I'll tell you the story.
Whose shirt did you get?
Wait, I'll tell you the story. So we did all right. We lost 2-1. I gave away a penalty in the end, but we did really well. But Franco Baresi was one of my favourite players, just the way he played the game and just like almost the godfather of that Milan team, you know?
Of course.
And so I knew it was coming towards the end of the game. I'd go over to the ref. I go, "Ref, how long?" He goes, 3 minutes. So I was playing on the right side that day, but I remember sneaking in and going forward to get near Franco for the end of the game, you know? Yeah. So the ref blows the whistle. By that time, he sort of moved over to the side of the pitch and he's down, not on the side, but more over, and he's down on his haunches. Ref blows the whistle. I sprint over and he's down on his haunches and he looks up and I said, Franco, you're one of my favourite players. Thank you so much. It's an honour to play against you today. Do you mind if we swap the shirts? He goes, "No, it's okay." So he took off his shirt, right? He had like this crocheted sort of singlet underneath that looked like his grandmother had made him, you know, maybe a lucky singlet. He gave me his shirt. I went to take off mine and he goes, "It's all right." He didn't want my shirt.
Yeah, I've got it. Like,
come on. But you know what? To be fair to him, I go, please. He took it, and then when they went up because they won, they did the trophy thing. He was wearing my shirt.
Okay, yeah, that's nice.
So I got his shirt, and it was so nice. We did a pre-game function with them, and afterwards, and just, you know, the Italians, they enjoy their football, they enjoy life. You know, pre-match, they were having a glass of red wine and just. Yeah. Really cultured, beautiful. Yeah, that was really nice. Yeah, I enjoyed that. So that was
it's interesting, you know. Like obviously, it doesn't matter what level you play against, but I'm sure if they wanted to, because I remember when they played the Socceroos, it almost felt like they were in second and third gear. You know what I mean? Like whether they're you know, and it'd be interesting to see if they needed to, because they. You know, won many European titles. You know,
that was half of the Italian national team playing for Milan. And then they had the Dutchies as well. So come on, that was incredible.
One could argue that could be, you know, in a limited foreigner spot, you know, could be the greatest AC team.
But you remember at that time, that was when Inter. They had the Germans, remember? They had Mateus. They had...
But,
what's his name? They had the blonde left-sider.
They had Mateus Klinsmann and
left back?
I forgot who the last guy is. Yeah, quality. Those derbies were amazing.
So it's, you know, and that was just after Italian 90. So Italian football was really on a high then. So that was that was a really special moment, actually, to, you know, coming from Tassie when, you know, football was not fashionable, and to be able to do that, you know, you dream of that sort of, okay, it's a practice game but, and then I got Franco Baresi's shirt. Not that I didn't have to buy it, you know. He gave it to me, so.
Back then, they didn't put the names on the back of the shirt, did they? Just the number. How cool's that? How cool's that?
You just knew he was number 6, you know, and he didn't sign it for me. But fortunately, they gave us another shirt, and on my South China shirt, it's got South China v AC Milan.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, 90.
Yeah, nice.
So I got that. And you know what? I got the memory in here.
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course.
And my dad, you know, it's what you're talking about before, to digitize all of these memories. And my dad found the game, Sasha. He found it. It was on YouTube, and it's the whole game.
Oh, wow.
It's incredible. And I hadn't seen it. Well, that's 25 years ago. And he goes, Dave, you never guess what I found. I go, what, Dad? He goes, you playing against AC Milan in Hong Kong. I go, oh, my God, I love you. Incredible.
Wow, how good's that?
So good. So I'm just going to have some water.
So it's interesting. So you ended up, did you say you played for the Hong Kong national side too? So you was it A cap or B cap, or was it what? How did that?
I don't know exactly how it worked, because they had sort of two national teams. One was, if they go to play at the Asian Games, that was purely. In saying that, there was a couple of English guys who had Hong Kong citizenship because they'd been there. Because you've got to remember, Hong Kong at that time was an English colony.
Still a
So a couple of English guys played. And then they had this select Hong Kong, what they called national team, but would allow 3 foreign players to play.
From the league,
From the league and play in. There was the Carlsberg Cup, and we went to China to play against Chinese national team. And so...
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, that was nice.
Hong Kong's a great city to live in. I love Hong Kong. So you spend a couple of years there.
Nearly 3 years there. Mm.
Yeah. So where else did you play in Asia? So
no, I just played in Hong Kong. And what happened, Sasha? I was there for that time, and then I probably had enough by then. I was fortunate because I lived on Lantau Island, so you could get away from the hustle and bustle. And Lantau at that time is not like it is now. There's no airport or any. You have to get a ferry. And we had, a lot of the foreigners lived there from all walks of life, from teaching and football and many different professions lived there, people. And I thought, I want to go back. And at the time, you remember the VIS ran a football program, Victorian Institute of Sport, and Ernie Merrick was the head coach. And I kept in touch with Ernie because obviously he was my coach at Georgie's, and he said, look, we've got an opportunity for an assistant coach here. Would you like to come back? And I said, you know what? I like the idea of coaching. I was still only quite young, but I said, yeah, I will. And then what happened was I did that, and I was working with Ernie, and I actually signed. Not a lot of people know this. I signed for Gippsland Falcons.
Oh, right.
And that was Harry Bingham. You remember?
Yeah. So I'm good friends with Harry. So he's
good top man, top football man. And he signed not a bad squad there. He had Ernie Tapai, Johnny Markovsky. I can't remember who else.
Yeah, no, he had a decent squad. He had probably about 5, 6.
I went there, but on my second training session, I can't remember who tackled me, but I hurt my knee and ended up missing the season and a full knee reconstruction. So I didn't play one game. So I'd come from the heights of, England, Hong Kong, and I felt like far out.
Was this at your second training session?
Second training session. It was a young Italian boy. I can't remember his name now. It wasn't malicious. I was just shielding the ball and just awkward, And so I didn't play a game for them. And it came to the end of that season. What am I going to do now? And again, these are like sliding door moments. I got a phone call out of the blue from Ange. Because what had happened, 95, Frank Garrick was the coach at South.
That's right.
And then 4 games, I think they sacked Frank or he left. So Ange took over. He was the assistant coach. That was when they moved from the old Middle Park to the new Bob Janes Stadium. He took over for that. So that was 95, took over for the last 4 games and then became head coach. And he goes, Clarky, I'm building a squad. We've got some good young players, Billy Damianos, Kasija, Blatsis, Tanzel Beza. So there's good mix, Pekovic. I want you to join. We're going to sign Fausto Diamici, Stevie Iosifidis. You've had Stevie on, I think, haven't you?
Yeah.
Liza, a couple of others. And I go, but Ange, I haven't played the whole season. He goes, Clark, I played against you. I know what you've been doing. I know you'll get back to full fitness. So he signed me on a wing and a prayer. And I'll tell you more about what happened. So, yeah, that was like, wow, this is another huge opportunity. So that was 96 season.
So 95, you do your knee.
Yeah.
Did you get the ACL done? And was it hamstring repair or?
Yeah, I had the hamstring repair. And to be fair, Sasha, I rehabbed it really well. So I was only out for 6 months, 7 months maybe.
Yeah.
So when pre-season started with South, not that I was back to full contact, but I was able to do most things.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was Ange's first year in charge.
Yeah.
That 96 season, and we had a good squad. But you know, I was just today. I was talking about this with someone. Who was it? One of the boys at Western United, Andy Perchin. He used to work at South, and we're just reminiscing back in the day. And what happened was, Sasha, Ange, in our first 4 games, South Melbourne, I think we had 1 draw.
Yeah, it was a terrible start. Yeah,
terrible
I remember.
Start.
Yeah.
We had 1 point out of a possible 12. No, 15. Yeah. 12. It might have been 4 games, 1 draw. Yeah. On the 5th game, and the board were going to sack Ange. George Vassilis and Billy Georgiantis were going to sack Ange. But what happened? George didn't have it because, like, George was like a father as well to Ange, you know, and he's like, the board are like, no, he's not. It's not up to it. What George did was on the Thursday night, I called a board meeting. You know, back then there's board meeting every week, not once a month. Having a board meeting with sacking Ange. George Vass didn't show up. So they couldn't sack because they didn't have...
I didn't know that. That's
true story. So they didn't have the whole board there. And I remember Thursday night at training, he goes, Clarky, I'm under the pump, obviously. He goes, I'm going to start you this week. And I'll never forget, Sasha. We were playing Newcastle United. They were United back then.
Yeah.
It was a big, strong side. They had Robbie Ironside. They had like guys who knew their way around a football pitch. I'll never forget. It was at Bob Jane. It was a shit day, pissing down. He goes, Clarky, whatever happens, we've just got to get a result here. We ended up winning. I'd have to check the records. I think we won 2-1. Shit game. Hardly anyone there, you know, just a bad feeling. We ended up winning 2-1. The rest, as they say. We then went on to not lose at home for the best part of 16 months. That year, that 96 year, Ange's first year, we made the preliminary final, lost to Sydney United from who did they at? Who's the coach now, MacArthur Ramps?
Milicic. They had Milicic up front.
Ante Milicic and another boy that played for Australia. How's my memory? Alzheimer's.
They had a good squad. So they had a top.
They had David Drillich as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, they beat us in the preliminary final
Yeah.
at somewhere in Sydney, maybe at a Denzer or somewhere like that. They went on to play that Brisbane Strikers team with Farina, Rod Brown, 50,000 people at Lang Park or Suncorp at the time, and lost in that final. So we lost the preliminary final. That was my first year at South. And then the second year, we beat Carlton at Olympic Park.
Yeah, good start, yeah.
That 3-2 game when Bootsy scored. And then the second year we beat Sydney United at Olympic Park, and we went back to back. So, yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, the makings, and it's when the sort of the chemistry clicks. A fairly stable side. Obviously, you've got so you had Vaughan in that side.
I think I'll tell you who we had. We had Petka at the back. We had Yossa, Komblatsis. I think Robbie Liparotti was playing as well. Can't exactly remember. Fausto was left side. Then we had myself, Panopoulos in the middle, Trimmers, Bootsy on the right. Well, Vaughan didn't play in the first grand final. I can't remember who was on the right. And then Johnny A, obviously off the bench to win it for us, and Vaughnie and Michael Kasija.
Yes,
that was a good blend. But you know, Ange always used to say that maybe pound for pound, we weren't a Marconi or a Sydney Olympic, but we just had this incredible team spirit. You know, whether Andrew was there or not, the change room it was just, we worked for each other, we looked after each other, respect, you know, and if someone wasn't pulling their weight, Andrew didn't need to step in. You know, we had good leaders in there, and you can't have that success over an extended period like that, and if you haven't got a good change rooms, and good individuals, we certainly had that.
Was it a heavy shirt? I mean, most people who played for South felt, for them, it was a heavy shirt. Did you feel?
Well, that's a really good question, actually. Look, I understood what that number 6 shirt meant, even though the first year I wore number 13, I think, and then, you know, it's almost like the history of South Melbourne with a Carl Halford and a Paul Wade. There's expectation with that shirt. And funnily enough, if you look at successful teams like the Liverpool, it's always like, it's just almost handing the baton to a similar type player wearing that shirt.
Totally.
And I took that as a great honour to get that shirt. So whilst it came with considerable, what's the word I'm looking for?
Expectations, yeah.
Yes, correct. Expectation. I saw it, as a real privilege and something that I was proud of and something that I was going to respect and do my utmost to carry that shirt well.
I mean, I think back to that first grand final win, the 3-2, where whether it was a foul or not, Bootsy comes off the bench. What a goal! What a rupture! I was there at that game. I celebrated quite well. Everybody celebrated quite well.
That was really interesting time because
Carlton's team was quality. That was the marquees.
They had
everybody.
They had a Bresciano, Colosimo, Vince Grella, Lubo Lubchansky, Dino's and Anastasiadis in goal.
Yeah. Their team was quality.
And they went full time, if you remember. They came in with full gun blazing. Yeah, so there was a lot of money being thrown around. And I don't know if Bootsy's going to watch this, but it's common knowledge anyway. But on the eve of that grand final, Kombuchianis got arrested for armed robbery.
Yeah.
No, we don't need to go into detail, but none of us knew about it. So we were just preparing as normal, but the club actually had to, it was innocent in the end, but they had to bail Bootsy out, $20,000 back then. I mean, the club stumped up the money so he could play in the grand final. They took his passport, so he couldn't leave because it was still in the middle of an inquiry, what was going on. Bootsy came on. Trimmer scored first with a header at the near post, I think. No, sorry. I can't even remember who scored. But anyway, then Bootsy came on, and I remember Trimmer's, I think I played him the ball. He does his usual turn, plays the ball over the top, and it was Sean Douglas and Bootsy running. Well, Sean was in front, Bootsy behind. Now, Bootsy just he basically tripped him, pushed him in the back. I mean, if that is not a foul, then obviously back then no VAR, referee play on, but whether the foul was given or not, Bootsy in that moment, I mean, this is a strength of character. One-on-one with Dean Anastasiadis, 20,000 people, the ball's bouncing, there was flare smoke. It was just the most incredible scene. I remember from behind, it's almost like time stood still, and I'm just like praying, Bootsy, please. And Bootsy just calmed himself, let the ball keep bounce. Dino came out and he just tucked it out.
It was quality. Yeah. I remember that well.
So, that was all going on. And then, obviously celebrations that night. We found out the next day at a family day that what was happening. So,
who did you room with when, when the times that you actually would stay? I know a lot of times you do fly in, fly out, but when you got to room in your South days, who did you tend to gravitate?
Well, we actually didn't. We stayed, I think maybe towards the end when money was drying out, we might have done the fly in, fly out, but we stayed, we often went 1-2 days before, well, normally one day before and then stay that night and then.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was pretty good. So for 7 years, Paul Trimboli was my roomie. Yeah,
So-
and we're still friends. We're very good friends, and we were very similar in the way we approach the game and our mindset. We always laugh because you know what the boys can be like. They create a ruckus in the hotel, and but Trimmers and I would get in the room, we'd unpack the bag, everything meticulous, thing put away. You go into the other boys' room, there's shit.
It's a mess.
And they were like, you after game, if we'd had a good result, they'd be like, God, you can't. We're like, no, you're not coming in our room. Not a chance. We'll come into your room. So, yeah, we you know, Trimmers is, apart from being one of the most wonderful footballers, really, the best that South has ever had and one of the best Australia's seen, probably, for whatever reason, didn't, you know, even with the national team, played a number of games, but didn't really like go to that sort of next level. I'd say when he went to Europe, but because Trimmers was always about, he's a very loyal person, you know, he's a very simple guy. He lived in the same house. His parents lived in the same house, and, you know, it's not about clothes or material things. He just wants to be in an environment where he enjoys it. And South was that vehicle for him. So, you know, he got many offers to go to other places, but he was happy to stay. And yeah, I was lucky enough again because Trimmers had lived all the disappointments of losing in 7 preliminary finals South Melbourne lost. You know, that sort of weighs heavily. So for him and I to have that success with the boys together, you know, that's going to stay with you forever. And in the 97 season, we won the Theo Mamaris medal, which is the best and fairest for South Melbourne. We were dual winners. So that was something nice as well. Yeah.
Cool. We've got to get to Brazil. So talk to me about, it was the first game that you played against the Brazilian side, and there's like.
Well, let me just first tell you how we got there and how we gone. I'm telling you, come on, mate, let's not make this go too long. You can't shut me up now. We had to go to Fiji to play against the Oceania teams to qualify as Oceania champions to go to Brazil. No, I mean, we're talking about $4 million prize money, FIFA-run tournament, you know, the best hotels, everything. Actually, before that, yes. So we ended up playing. It was just the most ridiculous tournament. The rorting and because you've got to remember Nandi and all. And at that time, the OFC was run by, you know, the Fijians and the New Zealanders. Fortunately, we dodged New Zealand. We ended up winning our games, and we played Nandi from Fiji in the final. Now, no disrespect, but can you imagine Nandi, who half of their team, Sasha, played for the rugby team as well? You know, no disrespect, but come on, mate. So we're thinking we can't lose this game. Imagine Nandi going to represent Oceania against, you know, whoever they're going to play against, Real Madrid, Man United. Come on. So I'll never forget, no word of a lie. It was the shittest pitch. And the change room, there was one pipe coming out. That was the shower. One copper pipe with cold water. That was the shower. The pitch, no word of a lie. You can check with any of the South boys. We got to the pitch. We look out, and it looked like the pitch was moving. It was full of toads, cane toads, or whatever those the equivalent to a cane toad is. All over the pitch, to the point where the grounds people have got shovels. They're shoveling the toads into a wheelbarrow, right? And we were about to play for the biggest prize in Australian football ever, and still to this day will not be. Thank God we ended up smacked because the referee was going to cheat. We ended up beating them 5-0. Fausto scored a bomb off the underside of the crossbar and 1-0, and then we got up on top of him. From there, Ange and George Vasilopoulos got flown, I don't know where maybe Malaysia or somewhere, I don't know where it was, for the draw of the teams, 8 teams, the best 8 club teams in the world.
Yeah.
2 groups of 4. And Ange is saying to us, we just got to pray. We get to play because the other group was in Madrid. One group was in Wonder it was in Rio. And what's the capital of Brazil?
Brasilia.
No, not Brasilia.
Sao Paulo.
Sao Paulo, thank you. In Sao Paulo. So he's like, Man United at the Maracanã in Rio. We got it. So we got Maracanã, hotel on the Copacabana. First game, 75,000 at the Maracanã against Vasco da Gama.
Yeah, that would have been awesome.
And Romario Edmundo up front. Fortunately, those two are having an argument. Something happened at one of their kids' birthday parties. They weren't talking to each other. So they weren't passing the ball to one another, which helped us. Anyway, we went nil. I remember coming out of the tunnel for the warm-up. The place was it was like the earthquake yesterday. Yeah. The place was literally shaking. We got footage of it. And then we come out and we were fearing for our lives, It was like...
Yeah, of course.
It was 0-0 half-time. We did all right. I had a long shot. Keeper saved it. Stevie had a header, put it over the bar. But then they, before you're talking about flick the switch.
Yeah.
And I remember they had this guy, Felipe, left footer, incredible player. And I said, Panna, you have to yell at each other to be able to... I go, Panna, you've got to get closer to him. He goes, Clarky, I'm fucking trying, but I can't stop. Anyway, that guy shifts the ball to the left and then rips one past Chris Jones as in goal, puts it in the top corner.
Yeah.
Then Edmundo scored 2-0. But, we got really good write-up in the press.
It was a respectable result.
Yeah, it was. And then we played Necaxa, the Mexican champions. We thought that was going to be
easier. They're quality too.
Right. They were coming from everywhere. I remember Richie Alagic was playing right back and he was just having the most torrid time. They beat us 3-1, but Johnny O scored a header, so we got at least one goal, and then we play United in the last game, and that was a dream for us all because we all grew up watching English football. And
but the thing about the Brazilians is they'll only go and support their team. They're not like sport lovers. If that game was played in, let's say, Tokyo or some other place, right? The Japanese or most cultures would go out. So I think the crowd I think would have been in that first game.
The first game was the biggest game. It was at the night. The other two games, Sasha, was during the middle of the day, and it was stinking hot. The Necaxa game, there was nobody there.
Yeah,
and the Man United game, and the other thing with Man United, they didn't even want to be there. They came off the back of winning the European Cup in '99. Remember Solskjaer when they should never have won against Bayern Munich, and.
Who was it? Who did they? I remember they didn't feel their strongest team, but who were some of the lads that are in that? Who were some of the lads that were in that team that you played against the United side?
Yeah, well, it was good for us because Bozza was there. So he looked after us, like meeting some of the boys wanted to meet the players, and so they had Van der Gaal, I think the Dutchman in goal. Jordi Cruyff played. They had a few young ones. Andy Cole played, Giggs played, but then they brought on Keane, Beckham. Yeah, they brought on a few of their big ones. Yeah. And,
did you get a shirt that night?
Well, yeah, that's good point. We lost 2-0. Quinton Fortune was South African, scored 2 goals.
Yeah.
Now, Sasha, this shirt is the one, I can't believe this. It's the one they wore in the final against Bayern Munich.
No, they wore the same top again.
So the top, well, it might have been not the exact one, but they would have been many of those.
Part of that series, yeah. So when it got printed, got it.
So within the material, it had the Champions League logo. It had a special badge, a gold one. It had Man United, blah, 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 European Cup final 1999. Fortune, number 19. Champions League logo, like the most ridiculous shirt. And so I swapped with Quinton Fortune, but Stevie Panopoulos, he swapped with, it's typical Panna, he swapped with David Beckham, got him to sign it. Now, Panna got that shirt valued many years ago, and some guy offered him 70K for it.
Yeah.
But it's a one-off.
Yes.
And just going on quickly from that, and what happened was we're staying in this hotel. there was like a mezzanine level with the jewelry shops. Anyway, you know, footballers being footballers, they see an attractive girl in there and they're sniffing around. And anyway, Stevie Panopoulos ends up marrying this girl.
That's right. Yeah, he married a Brazilian girl.
Married a Brazilian girl. He lives in Brazil now. He's been there for the last 15 years, an incredibly successful football agent. And he all from that. Speaks fluent Portuguese.
Oh,
and lives basically on the Copacabana and living the life.
That's quality.
How's that?
The great memory. So couple of appearances for South, couple of title wins, couple of celebrations. Playing against the likes of AC Milan when in your time in Hong Kong, and obviously trekking across to Brazil in the Club World Cup. Great experience. Now, if you're talking to that sort of, you touched on this early in your career where, you know, taking opportunity at the AIS. You know, I'm keen to, you're speaking to that 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old boy or girl. What advice do you have for them?
You know, over the years, obviously the dynamic of, as long as you're home for dinner, you hung out with your mates, and all of that time for me, I was playing street football, or, you know, it wasn't always soccer. It can be AFL, or we just came up with my time was doing that, and yes, self-driven and motivating myself, not needing, you know, a personal trainer or a one-on-one coach. And I know there's value in that, but I think it's shifted so far the other way because of many those types of things. Now you know, you don't want to let your kids out the front door, or we micromanage as parents. And so it was all of that. But look, you know, the thing is, Sasha, it's like in life, whether it's business, whether you're a sweep the streets, whatever you do, you're only going to get out what you put in.
100%.
There's no, if you're good enough as a footballer, male or female, if you're truly, truly good enough, not many slip through the net. Not nowadays. You know, I got found as a 14, 15-year-old in Tasmania. We didn't even play soccer hardly. So that was back in the, you know, late 80s. So don't tell me nowadays you can't. But it comes down to hard work, you know, motivation, all of those things. But one of the key things that you must, because if you ask any of your guests who have had incredible careers, I'm telling you, the majority of them will have said they've had more kicks in the balls, so to speak, than good times. Your good times they're few and far between as a professional, and maybe in life as well. But as a professional sports person, they're very few and far between. So you're going to get knocked down, you know, and it sounds cliche, but you have to, if you want a career in sport, whatever that might be, or in life, when you get knocked down, you have to get back up and be resilient and be stronger and learn from those things. And that was a big learning for me, that AIS one, because that could have changed my career, you know. And same, you know, those sliding door moments with Ange. If he had got sacked, what would have happened? Then he did get sacked. You know, it didn't work out for him in Greece. And then, but you know what? He had a vision. He had nothing was going to stop him. Nothing. And he doesn't, in a lot of ways, he doesn't have any right to be where he is right now. He doesn't. Nobody handed him that. Nobody said, you know what, you come from Australia, you've got to be a great coach. No, he had everything against him, like a lot of Australians do. But don't
he's worked for it. Yeah, everything he has, he's worked for it.
Don't use that as an excuse, you know? And are we ever going to catch up to these South American and countries where they still play in the streets every day? That's going to be hard, but it doesn't mean that. I mean, you only have to look at now. At this period, the last 10 years, there's a reason why we don't have players playing in the top flight. That's not because all of a sudden clubs in Europe said, you know what, we're not going to choose Aussies anymore. No, that's not the case. You know why? Because there's not anyone good enough. There's not anyone good enough to be playing in the English Premier League. I'm sorry. People might say, yeah, but nah. If they were good enough, they'd be playing in it. It's like young players now, Sasha, they go, I don't watch the A-League. I don't think it's very good. Okay, well, then if it's not very good, then you should be playing in it, right? Because that's a full-time environment. No, but I want to play for Manchester. Yeah. So does a million other kids.
Yeah.
You know? So resilience is, you got to have it.
Yep. Yep. Fantastic words of wisdom, David Clarkson. Thank you so much.
That was really enjoyable, mate. Thank you.
The time has flown. Thank you for your continued contribution to Australian football, and good luck in your role there with Western United. You're an ambassador working through to make inroads into the Tasmanian market. Being a Tasmanian boy, I'm sure I wish you all the very best in your role there.
Thank you very much. There's some exciting things happening in the club, and I'm really, really thrilled to be involved. And look, it's special that I can give back to my home state where I grew up playing football. So that's really nice. I'm thankful for that opportunity.
Brilliant. Hey guys, we've come to the end of this episode. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to our wonderful guest. If you like this type of content and would like to see more, how about you hit the like and subscribe button? And have a fantastic day.